I'm Theo. I'm the head of programming here at Try Together, and I'm super excited to be facilitating this month's Learn Together seminar. Tonight, we're going to be hearing from sorry, someone else is trying to join. Cassie Giardina, the director of programs and outreach for the Rise Above Foundation. This organization was founded in 2009, and Rise Above works to provide Massachusetts children in foster care with enriching activities, opportunities, and extracurricular experiences. From funding prom expenses to music lessons, the organization provides foster youth with just a sense of normalcy, and eliminates barriers to that prevent them from fully participating in their communities. Cassie herself is from Western Mass, and has a master's degree in nonprofit management. She's been working for 12 years in the nonprofit sector with organizations that support youth, families, um, as well as community engagement. Beyond this work, she's also been involved as a soccer coach, a yoga teacher, and just a general mentor to young adults, all of which has added value to her life and in this work that she does. And with that said, we're super excited to have you, Cassie, and I will turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everybody. It's lovely to be here with you this evening. I'm excited to share a little bit about myself, a little bit about Rise Above as a organization, a little bit about my experience and thoughts about working with youth and young adults. And yeah, I will. I'll kind of jump right into it, and I'll be curious to hear what questions folks have afterwards. Theo, you did a great job introducing me. I don't even have to really get into any of that, but I'll just kind of reiterate that I have worked with, I guess my entire professional career has really been working with youth and young adults, even as I started as also a young adult working with young adults and youth that were just a little bit younger than me when I get out of college at like 22, 23. But yeah, that has looked like coaching soccer. That has looked like facilitating work readiness and sexual education classes for teenagers, running steering committees that were primarily youth and young adults involved in the programs, leading our young adult advisory board for Rise Above, and even like advocacy and community organizing, specifically with immigrant and refugee youth. So my my experience is a little bit all over the place, which has really been great in I guess learning over the past 12 years of what are best practices and how I feel the best way to engage with youth and young adults are. Um, I guess before I kind of get into some of my own personal experience and how I ended up with Rise Above and what Rise Above does, um, I think I'll share that one of the I think one of the most important things about working in a nonprofit that works with youth or young adults is, well, two things. Um, and you guys have probably heard this many other places before, but like the folks that nonprofits are serving are the experts in what they want, what they need, um, how they can contribute, and how they can take the most away from what you're offering. And I think it's super important that in any space, in nonprofit, you're able to take a step back sometimes and yeah, and work with the experts, whether that's with, you know, whether that's directly or indirectly, if that has to like be looking at research or if it's able to be as close up as like having conversations with youth and young adults. It's, I think, to have the most impactful work. And if you're able to build relationships and really um, have those youth and young adult voices, and if it's not youth and young adults, even just the people that you're serving, if it doesn't happen to be youth, like having their voice in your programming is is one of the most important things. Um, and the second thing I'll say about that is what I think is most important is that this looks so different for every single kid or youth or person that you'll ever work with in the nonprofit world and really in life in general. For example, if you are, whether it's doing programming about what a healthy relationship looks like, or a young adult giving rise above advice on what comes in the care packages and what's most useful. Um, I had mentioned like the building a relationship piece is so key. One, because every person has their own um abilities, likes, interests, and specifically when you're working with youth and young adults, like they're still learning that themselves. So as the mentor or the advocate or the older person that's kind of leading, it's like the continuous challenge that we have the opportunity to have to to learn what is a young adult's strength? What is a youth's strength? How can I provide the experience where they're able to take the most from it? Not every kid is going to react the same, and this makes folks that work with youth or with any person in a nonprofit like our job so much more challenging and harder. But it's at the end of the day, it is what it is, and you can't. I don't think that you can provide services especially if it's around authentically lifting up youth and providing them what they need. I don't think you can do that as a blanket. And um, yeah, really building those relationships and taking and making sure their voices are heard is super essential. Um, so I just wanted to preface everything else I'm about to say with that. My 2 cents, I guess, on what I think is most important on working with youth, um, or any folks, any like pocket of a population of people that you're trying to serve and really help in a genuine way. Um, and then so a little bit back, I guess, to me personally, I've always been someone who's passionate about advocating for youth. I've learned how, and with the learning, have become more passionate about creating safe spaces um, for youth and for people, young adults, to feel comfortable to learn and to thrive in. Um, as someone who works in a nonprofit that works with youth in foster care, I I'll share that I was part of a family that dealt with it wasn't DCF at the time, but DCF in the household, although I was never in foster care, but I have some experience with the system. Um, and so when I learned a little bit more about Rise Above, as I a couple just over 2 years ago, based on some experiences I had as a young adult, I'm sorry, as a youth, I knew that this was going to be the right fit. Um, I'll get a little bit more into exactly what Rise Above does in a few minutes, but I knew what they were doing, what we are doing was so fundamentally important, because I did have the firsthand experience of the transformational effect and positive effect that participating in an extracurricular activity and healthy opportunity can have that had on my life. And this can be for so many reasons or look so many different ways, but whether it's just that activity or that opportunity is a safe space that you're looking forward to spending time in, whether it allows you to build a healthy relationship, whether it allows you to avoid um, things that are happening at home or at school or in your day-to-day life. um, it allows youth and it allowed me to build relationships with coaches, with the team. It allowed me to do something I love to do. um, provided structure like in a safe way, challenges in a safe way. There's so many reasons why. Um, so for me, this was just simply soccer. I mentioned I'm a coach. I have lived, breathe, and everything in my life has kind of revolved around soccer until I started with Rise Above, and still I coach and play. But um, you know, as a kid, that outlet, that safe space was everything. As someone who dealt with some trauma, some domestic violence at home, having that space was everything. So when I heard, over 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I heard about Rise Above and the opportunities that they were providing for youth in foster care. I mean, I know I can say firsthand that I know how life-changing these experiences can be, and youth in foster care um, have experienced more trauma, abuse, and neglect than the average kiddo that we might know. Um, and aside from all the reasons that I kind of already explained, research backs up the positive effects that the physical, mental, social, the academic success that any youth who participates in extracurricular activities and youth in care, research shows it has a positive effect. So, um, I, yeah, I think that, well, I know that the work that Rise Above is doing is important. It, um, I think that I think I'll share actually my PowerPoint now. I wanted to just kind of give a little bit of a background and testament of how I know and believe and think that Rise Above is doing some good work and many other organizations out there and why that is. But I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. I'm gonna kind of transition now into more about exactly what Rise Above does. And uh, Theo, I can see Theo and Sharon. You guys can see my screen.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, awesome. For folks that are familiar with Rise Above, you may or may not have seen some of this. Um, But for those that haven't, I know Theo had mentioned that Rise Above has been around for a while, since 2009. Since that time, we've provided funding and resources for youth to experience enriching activities, opportunities to more than 18,000 kids now since that time. Um, and yeah, it was really funded because by two DCF social workers who saw the gap in knowing and seeing how extracurricular activities had a positive impact, but unfortunately also experiencing the gap in primarily in like financial resources for youth to be able to have access to those things, to those activities. So primarily what Rise Above does is provide funding for youth in foster care who are in both the care and custody of DCF, um, for for those youth that are under 18, and for any young adults still working with DCF voluntarily from 18 to 23, or from 18 until whenever their case closes. So we will provide funding for youth to participate in sports, on sports teams, purchase their sports equipment, whether that's cleats, helmet. We will provide bikes and helmets for youth. Will help support foster families going on vacation or sibling visits. We'll help young adults go see a concert with a friend or a family member. We'll help pay for driver's ed, studying abroad. Um, so really such a wide variety of activities that cover, the physical activities, enrichment and activities, opportunities that come up through education and school. Um, And I'll get a little bit more into how we support youth through young adults in transition into their own first apartments and that are in higher ed. So this is not a full list at all of what we fund, but just a little bit to kind of share the variety of things that we support. Swimming lessons is on that list. And we absolutely love to get thank you notes from the kiddos and from foster parents that we support. So this is Janaea, um, and this is just from the end of last year. Uh, and not only do, these activities are directly providing positive experiences and helping their their mental and physical health. But really, a lot of the things that we do, help foster like independent skills and self-esteem, and especially for the young adults, where activities are more geared towards like necessities, like driving and studying and workforce training. Um, we've paid for plenty of like CNA courses and EMP state exams, dental hygienist exams. um, yeah, so these are all part of some research that, why it's important. I already touched on a bunch of these reasons, but these are a little bit more specific actually of why it's so important. Rise above our funding, our resources, our programming is available, like I said, to any youth that's in the care and custody of DCF up till the age of 17, and then those that are still voluntarily signed on with the department um, after 18. Uh, the youth can be in any type of care, whether that's a unrelated foster home, a kinship home, a residential placement, a group home. Um, and we are a statewide organization. Theo mentioned I'm out in Western Mass. I was born and raised, although most of my work was done in Central Mass. But I'm back at home, so to say. And um, yeah, we serve kids across the state as long as they're in that eligibility with the Department of Children and Families. And one of the things that is so great about us is we try to make it as simple as possible to apply for funding with us or apply for resources. The application will take maybe 5 minutes. If it's something that we fund, we're really only looking to confirm that the custody status of the youth once the application is in. It can be done by anybody, the youth themselves, a teacher, a mentor, a social worker, a foster parent. Um, there's no firm maximum or minimum of the amount of funding you can apply for, the amount of times that you can apply for funding. Um, we may suggest after, 2 or 3 concerts in a year, we might, say, let's get you involved in something more community oriented this time around. But yeah, we take every application on a case by case manner, and no, firm black and white deadlines really. And we're able to like turn things around in a day if we really need to. Our average is 2 weeks. Um, there's, you know, we have a 30 days there, but that's pretty unlikely. And if you call us and say we need to get this kid enrolled in camp that starts next week, um, and we can make it happen, we will. So we really tried to cut out all the red tape that foster families or youth or young adults may otherwise find sometimes with working with state agencies. So yes, the last thing I'll mention about Rise Above, um, is we have two specific projects that support youth, young adults. The one on the big picture on the left is what we call a launch box. It is a big box and it usually comes with a laundry basket or a big bag, also full of things that are for young adults that are transitioning into their own first independent living space. Maybe that's out of a foster home into their own first apartment. Maybe that's like out of a residential placement into pre-independent living home. Um, it doesn't really matter what it is, just that it's one of their first, transitioned into their own space. And we'll provide kitchen essentials from pots and pans to dishes to cutting boards, a bunch of cleaning supplies, um, a blanket, a toolkit, a first aid kit, a gift card for anything that we don't have in there. Um, and then we try to decorate it with a few things specific to that young adult. We ask like what their favorite colors are, what design, if they have any design preferences. We try to make it special. And we deliver these to young adults across the whole state. So um, last year we provided like over 100. And then just like halfway through this year, we were already at 82. So that was at the end of January. So um, we're out there delivering a lot of these. And that it can be requested through our application process. And um, just like a activity request would be. And the right-hand side is picture of 4 care packages. We do our care packages project twice a year. The next one is actually happening this Saturday, where we are set to deliver about, just that or over 350 care packages. And these go out to young adults that are working with DCF in our continuing education after having graduated high school or getting their high set or GED. And this could be college classes, this could be a vocational program or certificate program. Like I mentioned, we support a lot of youth that are doing CNA programs. Maybe they're studying to be an EMT. Um, like lash tech or nail tech certificates, any way that you're studying or a young adult is studying. We just want to let them know that they're doing a great job. Um, Let them know that like their community and there's folks thinking about them and cheering them on. These boxes, I know all you can see is candy and food, but there also is a big bag of hygiene items in there, along with school supplies and some other goodies, sometimes like string lights or hair ties and chapstick. And yeah, sometimes it can be a little bit of a mystery what you're going to get, but those are the basics. And that's all I have for sharing more about what Rise Above does. Um, and I think I'll pass it back to you, Theo. I don't know if I was supposed to open it for questions or, yeah.
Yeah, no, any questions that people have for Cassie would be great. I have a few, but I'll let some other people go first. Or I can go if people are shy. Um, I was curious if you mentioned like working with students who are like continuing education, and that did raise a question for me about like how often are you working with students on like a long-term basis? Or not necessarily
Mm,
students, but how often are you working with the youth on a long-term basis? Like you're in contact with them frequently. Like how does that kind of work with your organization?
yeah. So I guess it depends. So when our primary program of providing funding for those activities for unless the youth themselves is applying for that funding, it's possible that we're never talking directly to that youth. It could be their foster parent or social worker that's applying. But if a young adult or a teenager applies, then we have that communication with them. In terms of like long-term support, there have been times where we've paid for an activity for like a year or more. So we're still I don't know if you mean from that angle, but in that way, we're continuing, that like longer term support. Or it might be like an activity for a year and then they're getting older and then they want support with their driver's ed classes and then they're in college and they want support buying textbooks. So it just depends on the kid. We served almost 3,000 youth last fiscal year. So like, some of those youth we're definitely serving more than once in a year, and some it's just like a one-off. Um, I will add a little bit more about our young adult advisory board. We work with them for 10 months out of the year. We start in September, we end in June. And this is a group. Right now, we have 10 young adults who are 18 to 26 is our oldest. They're all either still working with DCF or alumni of foster care. And we work really closely with them. We've done like personal finance training, work readiness training, like a really small group on health insurance and how to navigate mass health as like a kid and an alum in foster care. Um, and then also they look at our projects like care packages and launch boxes, and they're like, if I was moving into my first place, this is what I would want, and like that's no good. And I've almost all of them have received a care package, and they give us feedback on that. So uh, our young adult advisory board is like the closest and the most long term, like direct long term work. And we've had like one of our young adult advisory board members is doing this for his fourth year. And then we have like one other that's on their second year. But so they also have the option to continue working with us that way on a long-term basis.
Very cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Yeah,
Do you fund all requests that are asked?
we do not. We do not. We do have to deny some. Sometimes that is most times we know of other funding sources like state funding pots of money that just aren't being utilized and that will like poof go away at the end of the fiscal year if they're not used. Um, so with deny requests and this happens mostly with laptops. There's like there's state money for young adults to get laptops and other educational um or like laptops and phones will say, have you checked out this pot of money? Um, Most times, or maybe they haven't, or maybe for some reason they're not eligible for it. If they come back and say, like, yeah, we did and we're not eligible, then we'll go ahead and fund it. So we never try to turn anybody away without any other resources. But I would say that's one reason. Furniture, unfortunately, is probably one of the other biggest requests that we get that we don't provide funding for. We do the apartment boxes, but not furniture. So we have a list of like furniture banks across the state. Um, and then lastly, just we get some requests for folks that like aren't in the care and custody of DCF because that's like our really one sticking eligibility point.
Right. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
No questions, but I do want to say thank you. It was very informative.
You're welcome.
Yeah. If I had a question, I guess the closest thing would be, because you said 3,000 people, I guess it leaves the question, one, how big is a staff? And what age group or groups do most of those 3,000 fall into?
Great question. There are four of us across the state. So we're pretty small. And actually, two of them are part-time. So myself and our executive director are full-time. And then we have two part-time staff, and they're primarily just receiving applications and managing applications. Um, what was your set? Oh, what is the biggest age group? I think it's the 14 to 7. Well, the average age youth that we serve is 11 out of that 0 to 23. Last fiscal year that was the average. And then just like the way that I've seen our data broken up, I think it's like probably the early like 10 to 14 is the biggest age group. Like the 0 to 5 is the lowest.
Mhm.
And then it kind of varies, but
Okay. Again, thank you.
you're welcome. Thank you. I see a question in the chat. Um, and yes, we do have volunteer opportunities through Rise Above. If you are interested and anybody else is interested and you want to put your email in the chat, I'd be happy to add you to our volunteer list and I can email you about any future opportunities. For example, the 350 care packages that we're packing up on Saturday in a 2-hour time frame. It's not just the four of us that it's actually mostly volunteers that will be helping us with that. So we have, because of the nature of our programming, we don't have like regular, well, our opportunities are in person, but they're a little sporadic throughout the year. They're kind of for our bigger projects. Um, But yes, we do. Thank you for asking that. It's a great question. Something I should probably mention.
I can also send you those emails afterwards if that's easier for you.
Okay. Yeah, I was just trying to copy and paste them out of the chat.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions for Cassie? All right, that seems like a no. But it was great having you. Thank you so much for coming to talk to us about your work, sort of the trajectory of your work, as well as your work with Rise Above. It was great hearing from you. As Paul said, very insightful, very informative. Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And thanks for everybody for showing up and listening.